Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Srila Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki, Jai Anantakuti Vaishnava Vrinda ki, Go Premanand Hari Divo. So, thank you devotees for coming to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class. Of course, I foolishly volunteered to give class. Nevertheless, yesterday was a long day. We've been cutting hay the last few days. And so, thanks to Damodar Kacha for also helping with the yagya of hay cutting. Yesterday was an extra long day for us, and I think we got in at least 21 hours of service yesterday. So, yeah, this wasn't my plan. My plan was, to come with a well-prepared class with, a thorough analysis of this verse. Nevertheless, due to my foolishness and poor planning, we're in the situation where let's see whether anything sensible will come out for this morning's class. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 2. Today's text is text number 38. Mama iti tehadau Hidvamityartha dhir matim dasya mano bhagavati sudham tat vitan vibhi. So, yeah, I guess we can quickly do the synonyms. Mama, my. Aham, I. Iti, thus. Deha, adau. In this body and things related to the body. Hitva, giving up. Imitya, not false. Artha, on values. The, with my consciousness. Matim, the attitude. Dasya, I shall engage. Mana, my mind. Bhagavati, on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sudham, pure. Tat, his name. Kirtana adibhi, by chanting, hearing, and so on. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Simply because I chanted the holy name of the Lord in the association of devotees, my heart is now becoming purified. Therefore, I shall not fall victim again to the false lures of material sense gratification. Now that I have become fixed in the absolute truth, henceforward I shall not identify myself with the body. I shall give up the false conception of I and mine and fix my mind on the lotus feet of Krishna. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. How a living entity becomes a victim of the material condition is lucidly explained in this verse. The beginning is to misidentify the body as oneself. Therefore, Bhagavad Gita begins with the spiritual instruction that one is not the body, but is within the body. This consciousness can be possible only if one chants the holy name of Krishna, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and always keeps oneself in the association of devotees. This is the secret of success. Therefore, we stress that one should chant the holy name of the Lord and keep oneself free from the contaminations of the material world, especially the contaminations of lusty desires for illicit sex, meat eating, intoxication, and gambling. With determination, one should vow to follow these principles and thus be saved from the miserable condition of existence. The first necessity is to become freed from the bodily concept of life. Om Jnana-timirandasya Janandana Shalakaya Chakshurmitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Vanchakalpatrubhyascha Kripa Sindhurevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavabhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasti Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Simply because I chanted the holy name of the Lord in the association of devotees, my heart is now becoming purified. Therefore, I shall not fall victim again to the false lures of material sense gratification. Now that I have become fixed in the absolute truth, henceforward, I shall not identify myself with the body. I shall give up this false conception of I and mine and fix myself on the lotus feet of Krishna. So we can see, of course, Ajmal's journey here. He is, now having some realizations after meeting the Vishnu Dutas, the Yamo Dutas. And so, in this verse and purport, of course, Prabhupada is, hammering us. Practically all of, Prabhupada's books, writings, lectures, we see that this point of I am not this body seems to be a central theme. Of course, there's so many themes, but this theme of I am not this body, becoming free from this bodily concept of life, seems to be, at the center most times. And, one may think that why, Prabhupada keeps stressing this. He said it a few hundred times. Why a million times? Because it seems like as living entities, we just don't get it. Having been conditioned for so many lifetimes and lifetimes, countless lifetimes, that the conditioning is so deep that we easily forget, very, very easily, and much easier than most of us think. Sometimes we think that we have such an amazing memory, we can, remember, and some people are gifted like that we can remember that I am not this body. But then we see that in our day-to-day lives, it comes up in so many different ways, in practical ways that we're attached to the body in so many different ways. So we need to keep practicing this understanding that I am not this body. I am spirit soul. That the spirit soul is separate from the body. So I made a few notes in different places. There's some tractor realizations on the phone here. So I'll touch on some tractor realizations just now. But of course, having been conditioned for so many lifetimes, we keep carrying so much of baggage. And Bhagavad Gita, of course, Prabhupada says in the purport, begins with the spiritual instruction that one is not this body, but within this body. And then, of course, we have this mind that we're, carrying with us for so many lifetimes. And we all understand many facts and facets about the mind. And, some of the things is touched on in the Bhagavad Gita, presented very, very nicely. And of course, the prime example is Bhagavad Gita 260, where it's explained the senses are so strong and impetuous, O Arjuna, Krishna is speaking, that they forcibly carry away the mind, even of a man of discrimination who is endeavoring to control them. So just think about the different categories, we have in society of people in general. And so here in this Bhagavad Gita verse, Krishna is explaining that, they forcibly carry away the mind, even of a man of discrimination. So someone, who is practicing, even bhakti yoga, is trying to control the mind. Still, the mind is, so impetuous that it gets carried away. And of course, we have heard some description in the Vedas that summarizes our mind. And some of you may have heard this example. I recently heard it from Bhakti S.P. Keshava Swami, that the Vedas explain the mind is like a, how does it work? It's like a drunk monkey. And it not only is like a drunk monkey, so, a drunk monkey stung by a scorpion and possessed by a ghost. There is no telling what it will do next. So think about that analogy, If you've ever seen a monkey, of course, the monkeys, we know that they're very whimsical in what they would do next. But then think about a drunk monkey that has been stung by a scorpion and it has been possessed by a ghost. There's no telling what it'll do next. So this is one of the analogies given in the Vedas about the condition of our mind. So we know, as practicing devotees, many of us, the mind can be very, very whimsical. So many impressions are there from so many different lifetimes. And so we know the example of, where's the verse again? So then in the purport, Prabhupada is also speaking about the four regulative principles. Therefore, we stress that one should chant the holy name of the Lord and keep oneself free from contaminations of the material world, especially the contaminations of lusty desires for illicit sex, meat eating, intoxication, and gambling. So, again, for one trying to practice bhakti yoga, these four regulative principles become central to our life as well, in addition to, having to control this mind. And we understand this four regulative principles is not a control aspect, but it's actually mentioned that these are the four regulative principles of freedom, because we want to practice spiritual life. We want to purify ourselves to become eligible to go back home, back to Godhead. And if we just drill down on these four regulative principles, we see so many people in society today gambling, intoxication, meat eating, illicit sex. This is the norm. But our understanding from the scripture is that, this is just animal life. And so, one of the differentiations is that someone who can control these four propensities can be considered to be on the human platform. So as much as, there's so many people out there in the world today, supposedly in human bodies, but if they can't, follow these four regulative principles, then we see that, the animals are also engaging in sex life, meat eating, intoxication. So what differentiates us? And so if we can try to follow these four regulative principles, then, we'll be able to make progress in our self-realization. So the idea is we need to come to the point where we ask, who am I and what is my purpose in this material world? So of course we have a material body. So we have the ingredients that, is very difficult already. We have this material body, and so, the body is giving us so much of difficulty in terms of, having to deal with the mind and the physical body, trying to, keep it healthy in the material world. Then, of course, compounded is the problem that, we're currently in the age of Kali Yuga, age of quarrel and hypocrisy. So it seems like, the odds are stacked against us. And we really need good association to be able to help navigate this material world. And so, of course, in the purport also, Prabhupada is saying this consciousness can be possible only if one chants the holy name of Krishna, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and always keeps oneself in the association of devotees. So, we should, like Prabhupada says in this verse also, that how the living entity becomes a victim of the material condition is lucidly explained in this verse. So all the key ingredients are given very, very nicely, as a sutra in this purport or in this verse. That Prabhupada summarizes very, very nicely. Of course, the idea of illicit sex, we can see the classic example here of Ajamil. He was a Brahmana, but somehow the other, despite his birth and upbringing, he fell down and, started to get the association of a prostitute, having so many children, and, just engaging in so many illicit activities. So it can happen, of course, as we can see, so many examples are cited in the Shastras. It can happen to, just anybody. Doesn't matter, at what stage of practice we are, even as devotees. We see also the classic example is there of Bharat Maharaj. Now that we're cutting hay, we see, many baby deers. Sometimes they're abandoned, sometimes their mother goes away to get food. So, in the hay fields, especially the Sudan grass that we cut, Sudan grass, of course, got a little overgrown now. And yesterday at Surabi Kunj, the Sudan grass was standing as high as the tractor. So that's 7 or 8 feet. And generally, it needs to be cut at around 4 feet tall. But of course, because of the weather, we couldn't find a window to cut. So I see, a lot of baby deer, and then I'm just reminded of this pastime of Bharat Maharaj. So we know the example of how Bharat Maharaj, he actually was on the platform of Bhava. So, almost there, perfection. But still, somehow the other, he had became attached to this baby deer whose mother had, drowned and passed away. And, he was thinking gradually that he was the caretaker for this deer. And so, it was a gradual process. And this is how, things work in our lives. It never just, sometimes it does happen abruptly, but most times it's a gradual process. And most times, we're not able to uh, see this transition happening in our behavior and our mannerisms and just our day-to-day life. It's just a gradual process. We go about chanting, reading, doing the essential aspects of bhakti yoga, but still somehow the other maya creeps in and bewilders us. So in this example of Bharat Maharaj, again, it was a gradual process. He was always diligently doing his puja, his what's the word? I forgot the word now. He was doing his puja, his meditation, his activities uh, in Krishna consciousness, but gradually, with the progression of time, he became lax in his sadhana. That's the word I was looking for. So he was, very diligent. And, on the stage of bhava, it's even hard to conceive, the activities of someone on this stage. Still, somehow the other, Bharat Maharaj gradually began to neglect his sadhana. And so, he'd be doing his sadhana, and the deer would come, the baby deer would come and rub itself against his body. And, in this way, more and more affection was developing to the point that, he lost his Krishna consciousness and, became deer conscious. So, of course, we understand what happens um, in that scenario, that if one becomes too attached like this, then one has to take birth again. So, in the next life, he became a deer. So fortunately, by the mercy of Krishna, he was able to remember his past life and activities. And of course, like Ajmil now, he was lamenting so much that, oh, what have I done? What have I done? So he had to, live in this body of a deer. And gradually after that, when he gave up the deer body, then he was able to continue his journey after that. So, these traps of Maya is, always lurking around. And that's why Prabhupada is saying that, we should always keep ourselves in the association of devotees. So in this way, if we have real devotee relationships and friends, devotees who are, interested in our own welfare. So yes, there's so many devotees, but then we need to, develop some real friendships, someone that can help us in our journey. That if I am, going off the track, then someone can remind us and, help us to come back on track. So we're going to find, in our journey of Krishna consciousness, there's going to be so many times when, we get distracted in this lifetime. It's a short life, roughly 100 years, if we make it to that age. But so many distractions are there in the material world. So we need to be very, very careful. Ajmil was very, very fortunate in his life that, he had named one son Narayan, that, at the end of his life, he was able to call out to Narayan. And so sometimes, we might think that maybe this is the solution. Let me have children and I'll give them all spiritual names so that, and become attached to them. But of course, we understand the material energy is ultimately Krishna's energy, trying to serve Krishna. So um, my short experience in Krishna consciousness, which is only a few years, I sometimes have this realization that we can't cheat. And so trying to, come up with cheating examples like this, that, why can't I be like Ajamil? But the circumstances were very, very different. It's all about time, place, circumstance. And the circumstances during that time was very, very different. And of course, these are different examples cited in the Shastra uh, of, that we can learn from. So it's not about copying, it's about, taking the essential learnings from, different personalities that may have made some mistakes. And we see, there's just a host of examples given in the Bhagavatam and, the Vedas in general of, great personalities who had erred, along the way. I'm thinking of Lord Brahma, how he became bewildered. He had stolen the calves and the cowherd boys when he was bewildered. Then who else was it? Lord Brahma, he was lusting after his daughter, right? That's another example of, how he had become bewildered. And, there's just so many examples given. So the idea is how to purify ourselves of lusty desires. And purport here, Prabhupada gives, I think it's Bhagavad Gita 5:11. Prabhupada gives, a definition. There's many definitions of Krishna consciousness. Anya Bilasita Sunyam. We can quote so many verses, but there's also just so many examples. So anyway, Prabhupada in Bhagavad Gita 5:11, he is giving one example of someone who is at the perfectional stage of Krishna consciousness. He has no false ego. He does not believe that he is this material body or that he possesses the body. He knows that he is not this body and that this body does not belong to him. He himself belongs to Krishna and the body too belongs to Krishna. By following the regular principles of human life, one gradually raises himself to the platform of spiritual realization. If one is so fortunate by such practice to rise to the platform of Krishna consciousness, then success is guaranteed for him. So, of course, there's so many points in these words that Prabhupada is speaking that we need to, analyze each one of these different aspects and see how to make a plan in our own lives, in our day-to-day lives, how to chant the holy name of Krishna, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, stay in the association of devotees, and give up this false ego. Let's see what there was. Tractor realization. Tractor realization. So one example was we don't want to be like the donkey. So we understand the examples given many places. Prabhupada gives the example of the donkey who's, toiling all day and night, all day, lifting heavy loads, caring for his master. And of course, the donkey, all he is thinking, he is not so intelligent. So the donkey, the reason he's carrying so much of heavy loads for his master is because he knows at the end of the day, his master is going to give him a little grass to eat. So the donkey, of course, doesn't understand that, as he's walking down the road, all beside him, on either side of the road, even there's just so much of grass available freely for him to eat. But because of low consciousness, he's always thinking that, no, my master is going to feed me. My master is going to feed me. I have to carry these heavy loads. So, these deviations from the path of bhakti happen very slowly. It starts very slowly, and gradually it can grow if we don't check these deviations. On the point of lust, of course, there's so many different ways for lust to appear in our lives. It's, not just lusting after the opposite sex, lusting about prasadam, lusting about so many different things we can, lust after. So, we need to be mindful, make a plan for, how to overcome these different anarthas that show up. And that's why, reading, chanting, associating with devotees, listening to Srimad Bhagavatam class, trying to give class not after less sleep, but trying to be well prepared for class. All of these things, help us stay focused in our spiritual lives. Uh, then, of course, there's a classic example. We always like to quote Prabhupada said. So one of the things, of course, Prabhupada said was that, as he was looking around at all his disciples, he was thinking and sharing with the devotees that, he sees that his disciples are not sufficiently afraid of Maya. And, he mentioned that he himself, is constantly praying not to fall down. And so, we see that generally, not only now neophyte, but especially now neophyte stage of Krishna consciousness, that, once we understand a few principles in Krishna consciousnus, once we start reading the Shastra, that we think, we got it figured out. There's only so many points, like this purport is summarizing. There's, a few points to watch. Of course, as we drill down, it, becomes more and more points to watch out for. But it's only a few things, and, we think we've made so much advancement that we're able to check Maya. But like I mentioned earlier, that, Maya is also a servant of Krishna, and she's a real powerful servant, serving Krishna in so many ways, trying to bewilder the living entity. So we need to make a plan not to become bewildered by Maya. What else? Here's another purport. I don't know which purport this is, but just illustrating this example of, I am not this body. This material world is also generally called tamas because 99% of its living entities are ignorant of their identity as spirit soul. Almost everyone is thinking that he is this body. He has no information of the spirit soul. Guided by this misconception, one always thinks this is my body and anything in relation with this body is mine. For such misguided living entities, sex life is the background of material existence. Actually, the conditioned souls in ignorance in this material world are simply guided by sex life. And as soon as they get the opportunity for sex life, they become attached to so-called home, motherland, children, wealth, and opulence. As these attachments increase, the illusion of the bodily concept of life also increases. Thus, the idea that I am this body and everything belonging to this body is mine also increases. And as the whole world is put into illusion, sectarian societies, families, and nationalities are created. And they fight with one another. Maha Moha, great illusion, means to be mad after material enjoyment. Especially in this age of Kali, everyone is overwhelmed by madness to accumulate paraphernalia for material enjoyment. So we see, of course, in this example of Ajamil, how all of these things have, hold true. And we see Ajamil, of course, he started out being born in a Brahmin family, but gradually deviated and, found himself in this hellish condition of life where he thought, he was enjoying in so many different ways. And only now, after seeing the Vishnu Dutas, he is lamenting about his miserable condition. So we'll see later, Ajmer doesn't waste time after this experience. He just gets up and runs off to the banks of the river and, continues his practice of Krishna consciousness. Leaves, his family, children, wife, and, sinful activities behind, and continues to practice Krishna consciousness. Okay, I think that's all I managed to figure out on the tractor and reading a few notes. So thank you for tolerating my rambling with very little sleep. So any comments, questions, other realizations? You're only allowed to ask easy questions. Yes.
He was thinking a little bit about the slipping of Krishna consciousness, how you enter, it can be very subtle, you don't really realize it's happening, and all of a sudden, you've like fully lost your taste. Your devotional service, you're walking sudden. So I was wondering how we can like catch ourselves if we're on a downward spiral, because oftentimes you don't know this, right?
Right.
You're like, oh, I've lost my taste for this.
So Maripan Lila is asking, as we start losing our taste for service and Krishna consciousness, it's a gradual process, as we said, how to catch ourselves. And, in this purport, Prabhupada, of course, is telling us that we need to chant the Maha Mantra. So, some basics have to be there. That if we're able to chant the Maha Mantra in the association of devotees, then that, already becomes so helpful. And then, of course, the next level we can also practice is that there's these 6 loving exchanges of devotees. And so, we need to be able to cultivate relationships with devotees so that they can also help us in our journey. So my understanding is that, if we're doing these basic ingredients of reading, chanting in the association of devotees, that already, so much of the battle is won. And if we can take it to the next level of practicing 6 loving exchanges with devotees, that can also help us in our journey. Anybody else wants to share some thoughts and realizations on that subject? That if we're on a gradual spiral, downward spiral, how can we, practically correct ourselves? Anybody? Yes. What's your thoughts and realizations? No thoughts and realization. Yeah, of course, we also have to be cultivating a mood of surrender, a mood of service, and a mood of humility. And I think, if we're practicing, these essential ingredients on the path of bhakti, then it becomes, very easy for us to also accept feedback, from devotees. So yeah, it's all about presentation and how the feedback is presented. Like, generally we try not to, at least my training has been, just don't give feedback to anybody and everybody. We had a funny example this weekend that regards, our preparation of tomatoes. Someone had made a comment that it wasn't cooked properly. But I had been cooking for one of the chutneys that I had cooked, the tomato prep, was cooking for at least 2 hours. And nevertheless, someone's taste bud told him that no, it's not cooked properly. Anyway, I accepted the feedback, and we tried to make amends. So next time I'll try to cook it for 2.5 hours. But we took the feedback, and we tried to take it in a very, very humble way. Um, and so if we have relationships, and that's why, six loving exchanges is there, if we have relationships with each other, then it becomes easier for us to take feedback and digest feedback. Otherwise it can get complicated, just giving anybody and everybody feedback. So we need to be very, very careful, because sometimes, we can make offenses in this hasty desire to, correct somebody else. So our understanding in Krishna consciousness, don't, try to correct others, always try to look within and see how we can improve ourselves. And there's a whole host of, faults that we can correct within ourselves. So, some thoughts on the subject, yes.
What personally keeps you inspired?
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare. What personally keeps me inspired in my Krishna consciousness? I try not to think about it too much, because I know I'll think about it too much and forget to do service. So yeah, I think that's definitely one of them. I can't give too many classes. I can't study too much, and so the thing that I like to do is like to do service. And so somehow I also like to use my hands. And so in this way, I kind of like have this niche, that in Gita Nagari, there's unlimited opportunities to use your hands and engage in service in this way. And so, yeah, I just try not to get mental about it. And, just do whatever service presents itself. By my spiritual master's mercy, the devotee's mercy, I've been able to learn different skills over the years. Of course, when I came to the farm, I didn't know how to grow anything, how to take care of cows, how to milk cows, and so many skills I've obtained when I came to Gita Nagari. But yeah, I try not to definitely think about it too much. The idea is try to make a plan to, do as much service as one possibly can. So of course, Bhagavad Gita is very, very clear. Bhagavad Gita is very, very clear that, a yogi needs to find balance in his life. And I think my program currently is not a sustainable program. I'm still trying to figure out the sustainable program. It's been at least more than 20 years trying to chant Hare Krishna. But I'm hopeful that I will find a way and find some balance. So the idea is, we need to take care of our health. We need to, read, chant, do so many activities in Krishna consciousness to find this balance. So that should be our goal, to try to find this balance. Um, what I'm doing is a little out of the ordinary. And, it's what's needed for the time, place, circumstance where we're at in our journey in Gita Nagari. And I say, like I said earlier, we shouldn't be imitating. There is so many hours in the day. If we carve out chanting, reading, associating with devotees, then there's so many hours of service that we can do. So I'm trying to develop more and more taste for service, and we can all try to do that. Hopefully Yasti is listening to the class, but yes, we can offer the sunflowers to Radha Damodar. Yeah, of course, by the mercy of my spiritual master, when I I was sharing with some devotee this weekend uh, that, when Parijat I first came to Gita Nagari for our first visit, he had invited us, Bhakti Maharaj had invited us to come visit during a festival. And, when I first arrived, we went to see him at the Institute House, and as soon as he saw us, he told us, "Welcome home." So I was thinking, it's such a nice, warm feeling. My spiritual master is so kind, speaking these nice, palatable words. But little did I realize what the big plan was to come and live in Gita Nagari. Yeah, and devotional service is also very tasty, just like prasadam. So I try to relish the different varieties of services we have here in Gita Nagari. Devamrita Maharaj, one year, many years ago, early on, he told me, why can't we have an agricultural wonderland in Gita Nagari? And I'm still trying to understand what is an agricultural wonderland. But over the years I've visited so many farms, and there's just so many nice things to do on a farm, so many nice ways to develop a farm. But of course, Prabhupada had an idea that, we'd be able to grow food, um, take care of cows, and, have wonderful, loving association of devotees. So at least, if we can try to do those small things. Yeah. Yeah, I try not to get too mental about, I think that's the one thing I watch out for, not getting too mental about activities and what and why and how, and service needs to be done. So my advice is, don't overdo it, because we've in our short stay in Krishna consciousness, we've heard of so many devotees that have become burnt out. All of us have a certain capacity, so we need to be able to understand what's our capacity for service, and engage accordingly. And if we don't know, then we have friends, we have nice devotee associations that we can try to find out what is our capacity. Also find out what your capacity is and engage accordingly. Don't try to imitate. And yes, we want to try to pack in as much service as we can. I would say, rather than, well, one choice we can make is, rather than scrolling Facebook or Instagram, or what's the new one, TikTok, yeah, rather than scrolling, better option is do service. And in that case, we shouldn't get mental. Is scrolling better for my balance in life, or is doing service? That we shouldn't get mental. That we should be very clear. No, that service is not going to push me over the edge in that case. But still, we should try to achieve some balance in our life, taking care of our health. And yeah, we all want, the mercy of devotees, senior devotees, our spiritual master. And it comes, according to our levels of surrender, and, just in our journey, where we're at in our Krishna consciousness. And so, everybody is trying to accumulate this bank balance, so to speak, of, that's the way I see it. Yeah, I guess I'm an engineer, so I always try to evaluate things, that can be quantified. So, we're all trying to accumulate this balance of mercy and blessings of, the seniors. And so, to the degree that, we want this mercy and blessings, is, to the degree that we'll pursue it. And so the effect of that mercy and blessings, also impacts our life in Krishna consciousness, and, our capacities of, what we can do, what we can't do. And Yeah. Any other comments, questions, devotees? Okay. Thank you for listening to Tractor Realizations. I'll try my best to, every now and again give a class or two based on Tractor Realizations. But I hope I don't get purified like this all the time, that I have to show up here after long days. So thank you to all the devotees for this weekend. We had a fantastic retreat. I hope a lot of you took advantage of the nice association. We had so many nice senior devotees visiting the farm, so many nice opportunities to make friends. There were so many new people that came. Of course, everybody was nicely engaged or fully engaged in service this weekend. So thank you to all of you for, doing the needful and um, making the retreat a grand success. So the organizers were definitely very pleased, uh, and they're all looking forward to having many more BMS retreats. Paramananda said that he wanted to fix the dates, at least 2 BMSs every year, uh, for as long as it's possible at Gita Nagari. So thanks to all of you for all the services you've done. All right, the conch is about to go. Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Go Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Hmm. Yeah.